Simply put, Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas is the Supreme Court case that overturned Plessy versus Ferguson and declared that racial segregation in public schools was not legal. The case ruled that separate but equal was by definition not inherently equal. Even though Brown versus the Board of Education made segregation illegal, it didn't have the short-term impacts advocates hoped for, because the desegregation of schools, especially in the South, didn't happen as quickly as planned. However, the ruling fueled the fledgling civil rights movement in the United States. It also set the stage for desegregation in other areas of American life, such as public transportation, housing, and employment opportunities. In the years that followed, Brown versus the Board of Education made a major impact on American life for all people. In 1955, a year after the Brown versus Board of Education decision, Rosa Parks was inspired to refuse to give up her seat on a Montgomery, Alabama bus, which sparked the Montgomery bus boycott. This led to the introduction of a new, then unknown leader named Martin Luther King Jr., in a movement that would eventually lead to the toppling of Jim Crow laws across the South. Passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, which led to the process of dismantling desegregation in earnest. This landmark piece of the civil rights legislation was followed by the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Fair Housing Act of 1968. The legacy of Brown versus Board can be seen today. While not perfect, schools are more culturally diverse and inclusive. In schools around America, a typical Black student attends a school where only 29% of their fellow students are white, down from the 36% in 1980. I find it interesting that in 1964, only 2 provisions within the Civil Rights Act came into effect. This gave the federal government the power to enforce school desegregation for the first time. The Justice Department could sue schools that refused to integrate. The government could withhold funding from segregated schools. This significantly expanded the role of the federal government and challenged the validity of the state's rights, the ability of a state to determine its own laws without interference. I was also surprised to learn that within 5 years of the law taking effect, only a third of Black children in the South attended integrated schools.